As a bike mechanic, I get asked frequently, almost daily, questions about rear derailleur shifting or performance and whatnot. Sometimes they're ghost shifting, not staying in gear, not shifting up or down smoothly, or hitting the spokes, slipping under load, things like that. So thought I'd put together this quick little video on the most common things I found. Before we get into that, we'll kind of identify some of the key points of the rear derailleur. So you got the high-low limit screws there. You got the B tension screw there. Down here where the cable attaches to the derailleur, that's your pinch bolt or your cable anchor bolt. And then you got your little barrel adjuster there for making fine-tune adjustments. So first thing you might, if you're having issues, you might just visually inspect. And as you can see, you got the bike frame itself, the derailleur hanger, and this derailleur hanger is bent inwards, which this is a pretty common occurrence. The bike falls over, you crash, any kind of mishaps, but that's kind of the line that the hanger should be going in. But yeah, as you can see, this one came in for a repair. Derailleur got up into the spokes and basically destroyed the derailleur. I had to replace it. So typically what that's, if you have one that's that bent, probably your best bet's to take it to a bike shop and you either have it replaced, or if it's not too awful bad, we'll straighten it out. This is a little derailleur alignment hanger gauge there. So basically you remove the derailleur, that threads into its place, and then it's got a little gauge there, and essentially what you're going to do is manipulate the hanger straight to where it's parallel, from all angles there, top, bottom, side to side, where it's the same amount of space with that little gauge there, the little tip there. You want to shoot for having that the same space so it's totally in the same plane as the wheel itself. You do want to have a straight wheel to do it in this particular fashion as well. So that's how you would correct that situation. If you ever go down on your bike or it falls over, that's one thing you always want to visually inspect, is just to make sure that that derailleur hanger is straight. This is another common thing you'll see on new bikes, or somebody may have just replaced a shift cable and trying to shift it all the way to that lowest cog or the biggest cog there, and it won't quite go up or it won't quite stay in there. So normally the thing here is just a loose cable, shift it all the way down, and if you've got that much slack, it just basically just needs to be tightened up. Typically what I'll do here is maybe thread most all the slack out of the little adjusting barrel, so you'll turn it clockwise, and then just back off your cable pinch bolt there, the anchor bolt, and undo that. You can pull the slack right out of the cable and then retighten it. So there you can see it's quite a bit, a little more snug, a little more taut. So shifting up one gear there, and it goes up, and I may have actually, looks like on this one I tightened the cable just slightly too much because I shift to the next gear and it's kind of wanting to climb up one more. So maybe a good idea to leave that adjusting barrel a couple threads out, so that way if you do the same thing you can thread it back down. So basically what I did here is just loosen the pinch bolt, let a little slack out, tighten it back down, and so here I had to turn the adjusting barrel out just a hair, fine tune it. So this is just kind of a different look of the same thing on my personal bike. I shifted up once and it's not quite going into gear there, so normally you want to just turn the adjusting barrel. You can see where it goes in, and what I like to do is just kind of eyeball the pulley of the uppermost pulley there of the derailleur. It should be directly in line with the two opposing cogs that the chain is in, kind of like aiming a gun or something. You want to just get that thing where it's directly under the cog that you want the gear to be in, I guess you could say. So if you click your shifter up there 3 gears, you want to be up in the the third cog from the bottom, so the corresponding cog for each click. And you can just kind of fine tune that to where it's lined up right in between the two cogs there, the opposing cogs, and directly over the cog that it's supposed to be in there. So once you get that fine tuned, that's probably the most common adjustment is just fine-tuning the barrel adjuster there. As far as the high-low limit screws, really that's something you're only going to do that when you're initially installing a derailleur. So here I removed my chain, same bike, and then I disconnected the shift cable, and then just by manually moving the derailleur, you can see, that's where basically the high-low limit screws are just stops to keep it from going too far in either direction there. So I'm just kind of tinkering with them here, messing them around with them, and so that's the high limit screw, which is going to control the smallest cog there. And you can see I'm just, the spring's wanting to pull the derailleur, back towards the frame or towards the right side at this point. So basically you just want to turn that to where that cog or your pulley is directly below the cog, maybe just a 1/2 millimeter inboard closer towards the frame. So got it basically lined up right there. It's kind of hard to see with the camera angle, but I think we're lined up right kind of with the middle of the cog. And then the same thing with the your low limit screw there. Here I'm backing it out, and I've got it to the point where it's hitting the spokes now. So that basically it's going to hit the spokes if the hanger's bent or if that low limit screw's set too far out. Some campy, older campy stuff is really close as it is as well. So basically I'm just going to adjust it back in, and we want to shoot for that thing to be just below the biggest cog there, maybe a 1/2 millimeter or so towards the spokes is just about perfect. So yeah, I'm just tightening it there so it brings it in just slightly right there, where I think we're just underneath the cog. So I'm going to back this off maybe 1/2 a turn there. So that's just about perfect right there, where it goes over just slightly. That just kind of helps it shift up a little bit there, but won't let it go any further than past that largest cog. Another issue you may run into is damaged components. So this is a shift cable here that's obviously frayed at the shifter. That'll cause issues with the you're trying to shift downwards to the smaller cogs and it won't quite go. This can kind of cause the same issue. That's a kink in the housing there. That is pretty common at the derailleur. You bang the cable into something, and obviously that's not going to slide through the housing very well, so it's not going to shift very well either way. Another worn component can be your chain. I made a video a while back. I'll put a link to it, but that's kind of 3 new chain versus one that's almost all the way worn out and one that's totally worn out. And if you have a really worn out chain, it can wear out the cassette sprockets as well. Sometimes if you get that little lip on the edge there, or you get where it gets a really wide groove worn in there, you put a new chain on it, torque on it, and it's going to slip under load. So if everything was well, you put a new chain on, you're slipping, that's going to be your issue there. You're going to need to replace the cassette as well. This is the B tension screw. Basically controls when you're in your small ring up front, shift it all the way to the largest cog in the rear. That just controls how close that pulley is to the cog itself there. So here I'm just purposely backing off my B tension screw. This is a Shimano derailleur, so it's kind of spring loaded where that tension screw is, but on a SRAM it's more of a positive resting point. And on those, I think you want to shoot for about a 6 millimeter gap between the top of your the tallest tooth on the cog and the tooth on the pulley itself there. So you want about a 6 millimeter gap. Here on the Shimano, I'll just tighten this back in kind of to where it quits making noise, and then that's about the best placement there. But this is, most mountain and road bikes, other than the 1x Eagle systems, it's a little different system. So anyway, that's the most common things I found. Hopefully you found the video helpful, and please consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. And yeah, thanks for watching.